Hey everyone, Spencer Reese here from militarymoneymanual.com. I recently had the chance to sit down with Ross from Itinerary Boss on his podcast to talk all things military credit cards, how to get your annual fees waived, optimal credit card sequencing strategy, and what happens when you leave active duty. We talked about some of the incredible trips my wife and I have taken using points and miles, and we recorded this on Veterans Day, which was pretty special. If you're new to military credit card game or you want to level up your strategy, this one's packed with actionable tips. I really enjoyed talking with Ross about all things credit cards. He comes not from a military background, so it's been generalized a little bit for a non-military audience, but I still think it was a really great episode. So without further ado, here's my episode with Ross from Itinerary Boss.
Welcome back to another episode of World Travel Made Easy. On this week's episode, I'm excited to have Spencer Reese. He is the host of the Military Money Manual podcast, as well as he's really the go-to guy in the veteran and the active duty space if you're looking to level up your finances. Also with credit cards. Obviously, we're a travel podcast, so I'm excited to dive into all things points and miles, some of his strategies that he's accumulated over the years, and hopefully you walk away with some value. I know you will, because I've already learned a ton before we've even started recording. What's up, Spencer? How's it going today?
It's good, Ross. How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. I think it's pretty cool that we're getting to record on Veterans Day for this episode. So really appreciate you taking the time, and thanks for your service.
Oh, appreciate that. Yeah, it's definitely a special day for me. Lots of people reaching out, which I appreciate. I ended up doing 12 years active duty service. Actually, sorry, I'll be specific. I was 6 days short of 12 years of active duty service. So maybe 11 years and 11 months. But yeah, Veterans Day is a pretty cool holiday, and I'm glad we get to celebrate our veterans. I'm glad we get to talk about military credit cards on your podcast on today of all days.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we really appreciate it. So yeah, first off, before we dive into the credit card stuff, what is the Military Money Manual and how did that, come about?
So the Military Money Manual was my attempt to just record what I was thinking about money and investing while I was on active duty service. So I started the website in 2012 while I was on a long training platform. I was learning to fly the C-17, a big cargo aircraft that the Air Force has. And I was stationed in Oklahoma for 3 or 4 months, and there was training to do, but there was also a lot of downtime. And so I took that opportunity to read every personal finance book I could get my hand on because I had a lot of student loans. I had just gotten married, and my wife was frankly sick of living paycheck to paycheck. So I was like, I got to figure this thing out, and I got to figure out how we're going to build wealth, pay off my student loan debt, and become financially independent. It was just about the time that Mr. Money Mustache had started his site, and kind of that FIRE, financial independence, retire early movement was really taking off in the personal finance space. And there wasn't that many military themed personal finance or investing blogs out there. The Military Wallet was one. The Military Guide to Financial Independence was another one. Doug Nordman, that was his effort. And I actually reached out to both those guys and I was like, hey, I want to start military money blog. Do you guys mind if I do that? And they were both like, dude, it's the internet. You can do whatever you want. You don't need our permission to do that. And I was like, okay, well, I just didn't want to step on any toes. And they're actually Ryan Ganon and Doug Norman. They're great guys. And we're still friends to this day, but it was just kind of a funny introduction where I was looking for permission from them to start my blog. I was really just recording what I was doing with my money while I was in the military. And it's, a lot of the mistakes I made, I didn't invest in my thrift savings plan, which is the military version of the 401k for many years, because frankly, I didn't understand it. So I just wanted to kind of document hey, I didn't understand this thing. I learned about it. And now I want to communicate with my fellow military service members about, hey, this is actually a good deal. You should be paying attention to this. And it's the same thing with credit cards. I didn't learn about the benefits of annual fee waived and the military credit card benefits. And we'll get into all the details about that, but that's just a little teaser. But in 2018, I was back in Oklahoma. So there must be something in the water in Oklahoma. Actually, I think there's a lot of things in the water of Oklahoma, but I was at a training, another Air Force training event. And one guy was like, I've earned millions of points and miles through credit cards. My wife and I have done that. And I was like, whoa, because I kind of knew about the points and miles space, but I was like, millions of points. Like, how is he doing that? And like, don't the annual fees like wipe that all out? And so I talked to him afterwards. He's like, oh yeah, I don't pay any annual fees, and neither does my wife. And I was like, well, how are you doing that? He's like, they waive the annual fees for military service members, and they do it for spouses as well. And oh, by the way, you can open up multiple cards. Like, you don't just have to have one Amex Platinum, you could have two Amex Platinums. Do you have any kind of like small business? And I was like, yeah, actually I'm running this website. He's like, well, then you could that opens up the world of business credit cards. And at the time they were waiving annual fees on business credit cards as well. They're not doing that anymore, but that was an opportunity that used to be available. So again, I wanted to share that information, and I started writing about it on my website, and it was picked up by Yahoo News and the ABC and a bunch of other news sites, and credit.com. It's not very clear when you go to chase.com or americanexpress.com what they're actually offering and why they're actually doing it. And so I just wanted to demystify that for my fellow service members.
That's awesome. And I'm guessing you didn't reach out to those guys for permission on the second one.
No. I knew how to play the game. I mean, I think now it's easy. Yeah. I mean, the site is maybe not the largest military personal finance site, but it's certainly the largest military credit card site. And the podcast, the Military Money Manual podcast, is the most popular military credit. We don't just talk about credit cards, personal finance. A lot of it's mindset too. That's actually Jamie. He's my co-host on the Military Money Manual podcast. And a lot of what we talk about is mindset, but we do talk about credit cards because, and I'm really grateful that you're having me on the show, because a lot of military families, active duty service members, Guard Reserve, military spouses, they don't know about these benefits, and they might be, what you don't know, you can't take advantage of, and what you don't know about, you might be afraid about. So I'm hoping that we can use this episode to demystify a lot of the misconceptions and misunderstandings about credit cards and about the benefits that military service members have access to.
Yeah, I think you bring up a really good point, and we're going to dive in around that mindset. I think the first thing always is, and this is just whether it's military or just any consumer, is, aren't credit cards bad? Aren't debt bad? Aren't there, just like, it's overcoming that piece. And then it goes into, which I love, and this is where it makes it like a lot easier, is annual fees. Oh, that annual fees, it's $895 now. That's crazy. Like, that's the first thing people come to me when they're like, do you still use this card? I go, oh yeah, I'm getting 2 or 3 times the value because I know how to get it. But that's kind of that overcoming. And it's always good to just get started somewhere. But for active duty military, I want to dive in just for some of the top credit cards for people. Like, what are your recommendations? And are there any that, you do get? Are there any that have a high annual fee that you're like, hey, you're getting that waxed off right off the bat?
Yeah. I'll just start at like the very basics here. So we're going to have to do a little history lesson and talk about the law for like 30 seconds, but I guarantee it gets a lot better. So it starts with the Military Lending Act and the Servicemembers Civil Relief Act. So it's MLA and SCRA are the abbreviations. And these are acts of Congress. So these are U.S. laws. You can go look them up if you really want to. And what they do is they provide special protections on credit to military service members. The Servicemembers Civil Relief Act is specifically for lines of credit for active duty. So let's say that you had a student loan and then you commissioned into the Army, or let's say you opened up a credit card and then you enlisted in the Navy afterwards. That line of credit, that student loan or that credit card, would be eligible for Servicemembers Civil Relief Act, SCRA benefits. If you establish the credit while you're on active duty, and for Guard and Reserve, it's while you're on 30-day or longer active orders, and for military spouses, it's if you're basically a dependent of an active duty service member or a Guard or Reserve member who's on 30-day or more orders, you're eligible for Military Lending Act benefits, MLA benefits. The nice thing is that when they passed this law, the credit card companies, I wasn't in the room when it happened, but they must have said like, well, how are we going to verify this? And so the Department of Defense actually provides a service, a website where the credit card companies can automatically verify your military service if you're eligible for Military Lending Act benefits. And I'm going to talk mostly about MLA benefits because those are usually the ones that most people are eligible for, because especially if you're on active duty, you might be on active duty. If you're only doing one enlistment, might only be enlisted for 2, 3, or 4 years. But if you're an officer, that could be, a 4-year commitment. And if you're like a pilot or a doctor or something, you might have like a 10-year commitment. So I was a pilot and I had a 10-year commitment after my 2 years of training ended. So I ended up being, like I talked about in the intro, on active duty for almost 12 years. And so for most people listening to this podcast, you're the one that you're going to be eligible for. And what the Military Lending Act says is that the maximum interest rate that the credit card company can charge to a covered borrower, so active duty, guard reserve on 30-day orders, or military spouse, is 36% interest. And a lot of the credit card companies have said that's difficult to calculate. And so what a lot of the credit card companies have done is they've just basically thrown up their hands and said, we're not going to charge you annual fees because we don't want to have to calculate that MAPR and possibly open ourselves up to fines from the US government. And so American Express, Chase, Citi, Bank of America, they have all said if the annual fee is over $100, then we're just going to waive it for the covered borrowers of MLA. So if you're listening to this and you're in active duty, you're a military spouse married to an active duty, or you're a military spouse married to guard reservist who's on 30-day or more active orders, then you're eligible for these MLA benefits. And like I said, you get an annual fee waiver. So what are like the highest annual fee waived cards? Well, let's start with the American Express Platinum card. That's an $895 annual fee. And as a military service member, you don't have to pay that annual fee, and it's automatic. So I always encourage people before you apply the first card, go to the MLA database, and we can put the link in the show notes. Or you can just Google MLA database and it'll pop up, and probably you might have to put MLA military because there's the MLA format. Remember when you used to write papers in high school? But the MLA database, you can open it up and you can run your own social security number against the database, and it'll pop up with a PDF and it'll say, our records show that this person is eligible for Military Lending Act benefits. Now, what happens sometimes for military spouses is it'll say, our records show that this person is not eligible for Military Lending Act benefits. When that happens, 9 times out of, actually, I think it's happened every single time, there's an error with your social security number or your date of birth or your name. So you need to go back to the military, update your records, make sure your records are correct, and then wait like 30 days. And then the MLA database will update, and then you'll be able to get your fees automatically waived. So the reason you're checking the database is because you want this to be an automated process. You don't want to have to like send in your orders, do emails, make phone calls. It's just a pain in the butt. You want this to be an automated process. And if you're in the MLA database and it shows that you're eligible for these benefits, it's automated. So Chase and American Express, they run your social security number against the database. It says that you're eligible and you're going to get your annual fees waived. And so like I said, American Express Platinum card, $895 annual fee, apply for the card. I mean, currently they're offering like $175,000 welcome bonus. I think it's spending $8,000 in 6 months, which is, that's a lot of money. So make sure you can meet that minimum spend. And if you're in the ML database, then they automatically run your social security number and then the fees are automatically waived. So you won't even see the fee show up on your account statement. If you go to like, when you get the, that big package in the mail that like contains your new card and stuff, if you look in like the legal documents that I have on like the back of page 1 or 2, it'll say you have been identified as a covered borrower of the Military Lending Act. And that's how you know that they know that you're in the MLA database. And yeah, it's just automated. So you can go ahead and you can open up the Amex Platinum card, the Chase Sapphire Reserve, $795 annual fee. You're not paying it. And again, this is for the active duty service member and the dependent military spouse. So you can both open up this is another point that a lot of people get confused on. It's not an authorized user thing, although your authorized user fees are waived. So let's say that you have an Amex Platinum card and you have your parents and your parents travel often. You can add your parents as authorized users to the card, and now they can go and utilize some of the benefits of an authorized user on the account. Chase Sapphire Preferred, $95 annual fee. Not that big, right? But still, annual fee waived for U.S. military service members and the spouses. Amex Gold card. It's pretty crazy when you start running through like all the cards that you can get annual fee waived. And they apply it to multiple cards of the same type. So this is another thing that a lot of people don't understand.
Yeah, I mean, the back napkin math is like, okay, if you go get a if you want to diversify your points, say you go get an Amex Platinum and then your spouse gets a reserve and you have Chase and Amex points, right? Like that's right off the bat, you're waiving, almost, $1,700, but then you're also getting different just credits. So like those credits where they say you get $2,700 or you get Priority Pass or Centurion Lounge or whatever, like if you both get a free Amex Platinum and then you have reserve, you unlock, right, the different lounge access. You then unlock, you're already looking at what, $150 a quarter if you want to go to Lululemon, Apple. There's just so many, Apple Music, Apple TV, StubHub. There's so many different credits and things that, not only are you getting the annual fee waived, but then you're getting, that's probably another couple grand, right? In just on one person. So it's like you can get all of those things and like you're getting free money.
The crazy thing is, right, is like people, like you said, like to focus on the annual fee. And so like people can be like, oh my gosh, like I could open up an Amex Platinum. My spouse can open up an Amex Platinum. We both open up a Chase Sapphire Reserve. And all of a sudden, we're getting like over like $3,000 of annual fee waivers. And that's great, right? But like that doesn't add to your bottom line. That just doesn't subtract from your bottom line, right? But when you start, like you said, you start adding in the annual recurring benefits. Let's just start with a simple one. The Amex Platinum card has a $300 digital entertainment credit. And so you could sign up for Disney Plus and on one card, and then your spouse could sign up for YouTube TV. And now all of a sudden you've got Disney Plus and YouTube TV for free for the rest of the year. That's $600. That's not coming out of your pocket. The Amex Platinum has a $400 a year Resi credit. So you can go to a Resi restaurant, spend $100, and you get a credit on your account. If you and your spouse both have Amex Platinum card, that's 2 free lunches every quarter. It gets really crazy when you start thinking about and that's just if you have one copy of the card for one person. I always try to tell military spouses or military service members or military families, there's a whole world of points and miles enthusiasts out there that are making this work and paying the annual fees. You get the benefit of you can make this work and not even pay the annual fees. And the one I always come back to is like the Chase Sapphire Reserve, the $300 annual travel credit on the Chase Sapphire Reserve. If you open up a CSR and you're paying no annual fees and you buy one round ticket, right, a year, that's like $500 and you get the $300 travel credit, you just saved. That's literally $300 back in your pocket every year for the rest of the time that you're on active duty. Like when Target's offering a 10% off discount for Veterans Day, right? Like that's great. I appreciate that. But that's like money that you have to go spend and it's only 10% off and there's all these like terms and conditions and stuff. Meanwhile, you've got a military discount over here on the credit cards, the Chase and the Amex cards that is like could be worth thousands of dollars a year. And depending on your budget and your lifestyle and stuff, you could be probably maxing out a Roth IRA account just in the savings that you're getting from your credit cards.
When you break it down like that, that's wild. I'm jealous because right. When you're paying that annual fee. I'm one of those people who, obviously I'm in the points game and I don't mind paying the annual fee because I know the benefits that come with it. But the fact that just on those 2 cards alone, the Reserve and Platinum, if you open one of each for each spouse, like that's probably over 10 grand in savings if you use all those credits. And then, like you said, just another strategy I love that you mentioned is that Roth IRA and just being able to go potentially max that out through the savings. That's wild. Do you have any like specific sequencing credit card applications? So like, Amex Gold, Amex Platinum, Chase, like what are your kind of strategies and thoughts there?
Yeah. So I usually when I talk to people about it, I break it down by like, do you want to like hyper optimize this and go and like open up 30 cards, or are you looking just to open up like a couple cards? And we actually did a podcast episode of like, if you can only open up 1 card, what would you do? What about 3 cards? What about 5 cards? And I think kind of like the sweet spot where you can get like 80% of the benefits is probably around that like 3 to 5 card mark, especially if you add a player to a spouse. And, the order that you go in is actually important because of the new well, it's not that new anymore, but American Express added family language to their applications, which basically means that you have to start at the lowest annual fee card in an Amex family. And when we say family, that would be like Delta, Hilton, any of their co-branded cards, but then also their American Express membership rewards cards. So, which used to be known as charge cards, but now they're calling them cards without a preset spending limit, which is, say that's 5 times fast. But that basically, the tactical implication of that is you want to start with the Amex Green, then the Amex Gold, and then the Amex Platinum. And as a military service member, you're going to get your annual fees waived on all those cards. And oh, by the way, once you've had the Amex Green for a year, you can upgrade that to another Amex Platinum and still pay no annual fees, but get all the annual benefits of holding another Amex Platinum card. So the benefits get really ridiculous really quickly. I have a article on my site, and we'll post it in the show notes, but it's basically the optimal order in which to open up the best military credit cards. And again, if you're just looking to, open up a couple cards, probably you could stick with like Amex Gold, Amex Platinum, Chase Sapphire Reserve, and then add like a Hilton Honors Aspire card from American Express. But it always depends on like where you're at too with your credit journey. Like, do you have no credit score? Do you have a bad credit score? Do you just not have like a lengthy credit history? But usually what I want people to do is like get their credit score above 700, 720. And that could start with like a beginner's credit card from a military-friendly bank like USAA or Navy Federal, and then go to Chase. So Chase has now it's more of a soft 5 out of 24 rule. So if you've opened up 5 cards in the last 24 months, you're going to get locked out of Chase. And again, it's kind of soft. Like it looks like it might be like a 7 out of 24 rule now. But usually Chase is kind of protective of their ecosystem. So they want you to start at their lower tier cards, which means Flex or Chase Freedom Unlimited. And then that just establishes your relationship with Chase Bank. And then once you've kind of proven like, hey, I'm a responsible credit user, I've had a Chase Freedom card for like 6 months. The other one they have is the Chase Freedom Rise, which is good if you're like trying to build your credit score. And yeah, you just have that card for like 6 months. You establish that relationship with Chase Bank, and then then you can go after the Chase Sapphire Reserve or the Chase Sapphire Preferred. And for a military family, I usually say you want to eventually have the Chase Sapphire Reserve, but if the preferred is offering a higher welcome bonus, it might be worth it to go for the preferred, get the higher welcome bonus, and then a year later upgrade that to a Chase Sapphire Reserve. And you can hold multiple Chase Sapphire Reserves too, which is not something that's commonly known. And so you could upgrade that Chase Freedom that you opened originally to a Chase Sapphire Reserve. Just make sure that you actually go get a CSR and earn the welcome bonus on it first, and then start upgrading your lower tier cards to the Chase Sapphire Reserve.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's so much value packed just into that, just into that strategy. But I think it's good because a lot of times it's like a lot of people don't know what 524 is, right? And I did exactly the opposite of what you just said. I went straight to the reserve, with literally no relationship with Chase. Now when I log in, I got so many different business and personal. Yeah, I think it is truly good to know which way to do it and how to strategize it, especially if you're getting more than 2-3 cards. And just those little minor things are very important.
Just a quick note from one of our sponsors, and we'll be right back to the show. Hey, Spencer, I've heard about this free Amex Platinum card for military service members. Where can I go to learn more about this?
Great question, Jamie. I've got the Ultimate Military Credit Cards course at militarymoneymanual.com/UMC3. It's a 100% free email-based course, and I explain exactly how to verify your eligibility for credit card annual fee waivers with the Military Lending Act, or MLA, and the Servicemembers Civil Relief Act, or SCRA. The Ultimate Military Credit Cards course is a beginner's guide to travel hacking and opening up your first annual fee-waived credit card while you or your spouse serves in the U.S. military. There's no spam, no fluff, and the only emails you'll get from me are related to military credit cards. You can unsubscribe at any time, and there's zero cost to you to sign up. You can sign up right now for free at militarymoneymanual.com/UMC3. Again, militarymoneymanual.com/uniform Mike Charlie 3.
And now back to the show.
What about active duty versus veterans? Say someone was active duty. Now they've gotten all these cards. Do they now have to pay the annual fee, or are they good since they opened it up and got all of that waived?
Yeah. So again, I've got another article on my site. We'll put that in the show notes. The high level version is, so let's say you open up the cards while you're in active duty. You're transitioning out now, either separating, retiring, medically separated, whatever it is. My number one advice is wait. Just hang on. Don't rush anything. Don't start just like closing accounts like crazy. You can. And actually, we did that for my wife when I left active duty. We just closed like a whole bunch of her cards. We tanked her credit score. Not really tanked. It was like she lost like 50 points off her credit score. And then 3 months later, it came back, right? And that's one of the fears that people have, is that this isn't good for your credit score. This is great for your credit score. Our credit scores have been consistently over 800, 790 for the last 10 years. And at our peak, I mean, I had something like 30 credit cards and my wife had something like over a dozen credit cards. So as long as you're paying the statement balance in full, on time, every time, and set up automatic payments so you never have to worry about it, you never miss a payment, that this is not bad for your credit score. The only thing I would advise is, like, if you're coming up and you're going to buy a house soon, or you're going to buy a car soon, you're going to take out a car loan, is maybe it's not the time to be opening up like 6 credit cards back to back, 3 months apart. Not the time to do that. Like, it's good if you have a year. It's even better if you have 2 years of kind of like a quiet period leading up to like a big purchase, like a house or a car. But the strategy I recommend when someone is finishing their active duty service and they're getting ready to transition to be a veteran is just wait for the credit card company. So Chase is Johnny on the spot. They'll probably, like, 30 days after you separate, they're going to send you a letter in the mail for all your accounts and be like, hey, we don't think you're active duty anymore. If this is wrong, give us your orders so we can keep waiving your fees. But if this is right, you have 24 months before we start charging the annual fees. And American Express does a similar thing. Bank of America, Capital One, Citi, they all do something similar. Again, just wait, because what's weird is that the computers, like, don't quite know what to do with you. So, like, for instance, my wife had a Hilton Honors Aspire card, which was an upgraded Surpass card. Okay. So she got the letter in the mail that we're going to start charging annual fees from American Express. Doesn't really, like, it's not clear when, right? Sometime in the future. Well, it took 18 months. 18 months later, they finally charged her an annual fee, but it was a $95 annual fee for an Aspire card. So we were like, okay, like, we can easily get more than $95 of value out of this card. We'll just keep it open. The following year, they charged her a $450 annual fee, which at the time, the annual fee in the Aspire card was $550. So we're like saving $100 off the annual fee. Great, we'll keep it open. Finally, the next year, they charged a full $550 annual fee. And we said, you know what? Like, she's already got another Aspire card. We don't need 2 Aspire cards, be paying 2 annual fees on it. We'll close this one. And for American Express, as long as you close the account within 30 days of the annual fee being charged, then they'll refund the annual fee. So yeah, my number one advice is wait. Then my next advice is keep waiting. And then it's time, once the fees do start getting charged, it's time to assess. Like, for instance, I still have 6 American Express Platinum cards open, all with the annual fees waived. I separated over 3 years ago from active duty. I am just going to keep those open until they start charging the annual fees. Do I need 6 Amex Platinum cards? No, absolutely not. So once they start charging annual fees, I'll probably slowly chip away until I'm down to 1 American Express Platinum card. And I find the Amex Platinum card has tremendous value. In fact, with the annual fee increase, but with the extra credits they're offering, it has even more value. And like you were saying, I can easily get 2 or 3 times the annual fee of value out of the card annually. So I'm definitely going to keep an Amex Platinum card. And that's what I recommend that military families do, is they assess and say, am I going to get value out of this card? If yes, keep it open, pay the annual fee. If no, don't necessarily close it. Look at maybe downgrading it. So if you have an Amex Platinum card and you're like, I can't justify that high annual fee, I'm not getting the value from it, look at downgrading it to an Amex Gold card or maybe an Amex Green card. And then that preserves your Amex membership rewards points, which I think is really important. You always want to keep a card open in kind of the ecosystem so you can preserve your points, whether they're Chase, Capital One, American Express, or whatever. Or you need to, like, make sure you clear them out, right? So either just like statement credit, cash them out, whatever you need to do, so you're not just like abandoning them. There's nothing sadder than abandoned points and miles. So yeah, at the end of the day, like, if you've done your assessment, you've waited, they've charged the annual fee, you don't want to downgrade, or maybe you have downgraded and like, on Chase, you could always downgrade a Chase Sapphire Reserve to a Chase Freedom card with no annual fee. But in American Express, the lowest card you can go to is the Amex Green card, and it still has an annual fee. And you might say like, look, I just can't afford, I think it's about $200 annual fee on the Amex Green card. Then you might think, okay, it's time to close this account, and it's okay. It's okay to close accounts. I've closed dozens of credit card accounts over my lifetime, and my credit score is still over 800. So even if, like I said, you have to close like a whole bunch of cards all at once, you might see a little impact on your credit score, but it usually washes out in a couple months, and your credit score comes right back up.
Yeah, no, and that's really good tips just around, right? A lot of the biggest questions that people have when they first get started is this going to hurt my credit score? Can I close a credit card? Is the annual fee worth it? And that's the same, right? Even if you are paying an annual fee, it's like, if you do open a card for maybe a welcome bonus and you've used it for a few years, I always just look at cards and be like, am I using this? Is it worth the annual fee? Am I getting that value out of it? I think that's huge. And just, I will make sure to link to the different articles specifically that you mentioned, because there's some strategic tips step by step that I think people can start to think if they have opened a lot of cards. I don't know if there's people who have done that, right? Who have been strategic with everything, but I think it's good too if you're just starting out and you get into this hobby, thinking through that. And if you have a spouse and you take advantage of this, but no, that's really, really good advice. Are there any specific, so we talked a lot about, right, differences for active duty versus veterans. We talked about, the sequencing, also just the different cards and some of the perks that come with it. Are there any specific like success stories, just for, obviously there probably are if you have 30 cards and your wife had a dozen, but like just for someone who's just like, maybe they're thinking about taking out a card or they have one, like, how have you used points? Like, what has it done, for you personally traveling, for your family? Just like, what are some of the experiences that it's really helped provide you over your lifetime?
Great question. I just want to go back real quick too and just address the veterans thing, because I do get this question a lot. Like, can veterans get their annual fees waived? And unfortunately, the answer is no. So the Military Landing Act and the Servicemembers Civil Relief Act only applies to active duty, Guard Reserve on 30+ day orders, or military spouses. So for veterans, you're basically starting just like as a civilian. You might be in the real world and have a real job or have a real business. Or maybe, the side hustle you were doing on active duty has now become a full-time business. Like, go check out Ross's stuff about, as a business owner, like the opportunities that are available to you there. And so I always like to remind veterans that, like, no, you're not going to get your fees waived, but like there is this whole points and miles community out there. And especially if you're, veterans, a lot of veterans tend to be very entrepreneurial and to, want to optimize their business. And as a veteran small business owner myself, I can tell you that there are tremendous opportunity in using the right cards in your business to both earn welcome bonuses, but also just for like, everyday business spending. There's tremendous opportunities in the credit card space to get some awesome trips and awesome points and miles redemptions. And to your point, Ross, some of the crazy trips that we've been able to take, and this is a unique military benefit, is a lot of times you're stationed overseas. You might be in driving distance to some, legendary resorts, but your home airport might have tons of award availability space because you have access to US American credit cards and points and miles, whereas this hobby doesn't really exist outside of the US financial ecosystem. It's kind of in England, maybe a little bit in Australia, Singapore, Japan, but not to the extent that it is in the US. And so what that allows you to do is, you can earn American Express points. And if you're stationed in Germany, go look at the awards availability space out of Frankfurt on Singapore Air. It's fantastic. I mean, you could be flying Singapore suites with caviar service and your own essential apartment on the aircraft. You might find tons of availability, whereas everybody in the States is competing for the same award availability space. out of all the US airports, and you just have a different, you can just play a different game. So I think that's another advantage that military travel hackers get. I mean, when I was in Hawaii, my wife and I, we had one of the Southwest cards, and we transferred points from Chase to Southwest, and we were able to, book like inter-island flights for something like crazy, like 2,000 points or something, right? Like basically nothing. And we would just hop around the islands, and we could go stay at like all the Hilton hotels, like the Grand Wailea in Maui. And, just for like a weekend. So like we'd fly over on a Friday and use our free night certificate plus like some points. Or one thing that we would often do is I would have a free night certificate and my wife would have a free night certificate on her account. I would book the Friday night. She would book the Saturday night. We would check in, and then we'd just say like, hey, can you combine those reservations? And the front desk would be like, yeah, sure, no problem. Like we don't want to kick you out of your room. Your spouse are both using these cards. There's a lot of potential there. Another great redemption we were able to do was when we were living in the Middle East, and we were stationed in Abu Dhabi on Etihad Airways and Emirates Airways, tons of award availability. So like we were able to fly business class to Switzerland, actually on our PCS out of there when we moved to the next duty station. And it wasn't that many points and miles. Like, it was a really easy redemption. There was a Ritz-Carlton Alhambra Beach, which is just north of Dubai. And it was something like, at the time, I think it was like $1,600 free night, 80,000 point certificate. And we were able to stay there I think we stayed there for a weekend. And this place, I mean, so you had like your like hut where like your bedroom and bathroom and stuff were, but then outside you had this like, it was completely private. So like you had like a hedge like all around like your little property, and it went just like out to the ocean. And so like you had your own private beach out there, and in this like inside your hedge was like a outdoor shower and a plunge pool and an outdoor bath. And it was just magical. Like there was like, they had done like the lighting so well, and you're just like out there in the, the Arabian desert and on the beach of the Persian Gulf in this like $1,600 a night luxury resort. And we didn't pay anything for it.
That's wild.
So it was just, yeah. So, and like, I mean, I've got more than a dozen stories like that, but just those and at the time, I mean, I was a captain making maybe like $100,000 a year. Like this is not something that, I mean, that would have been like 5% of our annual income to go and stay there for a weekend. But that's just like those opportunities and those experiences. It actually it really changes how you view luxury and how you view kind of like the social ladder, because like all of a sudden, like you've had these experiences that like normally would be reserved for someone in a much higher tax bracket. And I think like it's really good to see them and understand like, okay, is that something that I would have paid $1,600 for? Or would I have rather taken that $1,600 and like done a long weekend at like a much cheaper hotel and then done some activities and done some hiking and like eaten some good food? Or you might discover that you're like, yeah, you know what? Like that was worth $1,600. And I'm really glad I had that experience, because now I'm motivated to go out and make more money or earn more points and miles and stay at more hotels like that.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's cool because like you're bringing, and this is what I love, you're bringing a different perspective that for me, we're always looking for award availability from the States over to whether it's Europe, whether it's to wherever we're going. And understanding positioning flights, like, yes, we could fly into Frankfurt and maybe we do that in business class, stay there for a day or two, right? Or right, if we're going somewhere, you can utilize stopovers. But like, if you really want to fly in that specific apartment or suite or whatever, right, you have that aspirational plane you want to fly in, like that's a good strategy where it gets rid of. And I think that's a challenge that a lot of people run into when they first start this hobby. Oh, points don't work because they're trying to fly out at peak time during peak summer to, the most touristy place. So I think it comes down to just understanding these little tips and tricks. And yeah, like you said, you're not competing with everyone who's trying to fly out on those specific dates. So even if you are, right, even if you aren't living there, that's just another little hack that you can use to get over and do that. And I like the different, it wasn't just aspirational. Hey, you're going to fly in the apartment, you're going to fly, right? And in this, it's just the simple ones like Hawaii. Hey, if you're stationed in Hawaii and it's 2,000 Southwest points at the time to go island hop and then use those different points to stay, like those are very, even if you're not, opening a bunch of cards, you're not as deep into the hobby, like that's right there is saving significant amounts of money, and that's going to build right over time. So that's awesome. I appreciate you sharing a couple of those, and I'm already thinking like, all right, Charlotte has direct flights to Frankfurt. How do I get that? And then if I sing, right, like that. But those are some awesome tips. Yeah, I know we talked a little bit about hotel or just airline status and just some of the different perks. Is there anything around like hotel status, airline status? We talked about some of the travel credits. Anything with the cards that we mentioned that get you that, or are there any other strategies that you like to leverage?
A lot of military travelers come to late is status at the big chains. So you're moving from duty station to duty station, or you're going TDY or doing a temporary duty somewhere. And you might be like heading out to Estonia to watch the Russians, and like there's no US military base there. So you're going to be staying in the Marriott in downtown Tallinn for, like 3 months. And like I had a buddy who he went out to Abu Dhabi and they didn't have lodging for him. So he ended up staying at like the Ritz-Carlton in Abu Dhabi for months. And that just opens up the opportunity where he was ambassador, or what is Titanium Elite, I think is there, or ambassador is higher than Titanium. But once you start building up, you're able to build up like a lot of nights with a lot of these properties. You can build up a lot of status, which turns into, suite upgrades. And when I say suite, I don't mean they're awesome, but they are awesome. But usually like bigger rooms, or better views, free breakfast, just like all these perks, getting invited to like the manager's happy hour and stuff. And I think where it starts is you can, it's very easy to go and open up a American Express Hilton Honors Aspire card that gives you automatic Hilton Diamond status. And that's their highest published status. So there might be a secret status higher than that. I'm not sure. But, that's going to give you room upgrades. That's going to give you free breakfast outside the U.S. and inside the U.S. You can get that gift certificate or whatever that room credit that you can use on food. So you can get the Hilton Aspire card. You can get the Marriott Bonvoy Brilliant, again, from American Express. That's going to give you automatic platinum status with Marriott. And then it's going to give you like an extra 25 elite nights. So you're starting off a lot higher. And so now you only need to stay, 50 nights to earn that next tier up. And like I said, you might be sent overseas and your accommodation is a Marriott. So why not start just collecting those nights if you're going to be staying there anyways? And you can give yourself a head start by opening up these cards that you're not paying any annual fees on. It's just like, it's such a no-brainer if you're doing any travel here. And then the other one is there's two more. There's the Chase Hyatt card and the Chase IHG card. And so with those four right there, you're kind of covering, the four major US hotel chains. If I was smarter, I guess this is not a mistake, but just a learning, I would have gone hard on Hyatt when I was traveling. And their footprint isn't as big as some of the other chains. Like when I was stationed out in the Middle East, we just always stayed in Marriotts. That wasn't like a policy or anything. It was just because like, hey, like most of us are already Platinum Elite, and let's just pick one hotel chain and we'll just always stay there, so we'll build more status. And that's easy to do with Marriott because, their footprint globally is like 6,000 hotels, whereas Hyatt's a lot smaller. I think there's something like 1,200, 1,500 or something. But if you do have an opportunity to build Hyatt status, the Hyatt Globalist status is far and away the best elite program that any of your hotel chains offer. And, like they say, like, with the Hilton Honors Aspire card giving you complimentary diamond status. Well, if everybody's diamond, then no one's diamond, right?
Yeah.
But again, a military advantage is, so you're getting this card with no annual fee, you're getting the automatic diamond status. And if you're staying at a Hilton outside of the United States, this is something that I have noticed, diamond status is actually recognized because it's a lot harder to get. And so if they actually do get diamond guests, they tend to be treated a lot better. So I remember staying at the Conrad in Tokyo, and it was like, they're rolling out the red carpet for you. They're bowing. I mean, everybody's getting bowed to, but like, it's like, oh, Mr. Reese, welcome. Like we have upgraded your, I booked like the crappiest room in the hotel, and they're like, no, they're like, we have upgraded you. It was awesome. And that's just one thing that's kind of a luxury perk that I think that a lot of military service members sleep on is, they understand the Amex Platinum. Maybe even they take it so far as, getting the Chase Sapphire Reserve. But it's like, if you're traveling, if you're air crew, if you're like, in any kind of like comms airfield or career field where you're getting, sent overseas to do, all kinds of stuff. If you're in any of quick response groups or like contingency response units and you're getting sent overseas all the time, open up all of the hotel credit cards and make sure that you're starting kind of your journey of hotel status with all the hotels. And then my advice to you is, if possible, try to stay at Hyatt's and build up to globalist status, because diamond status with Hilton, you can get platinum with Marriott, but Hyatt actually has a lot of perks for globalists, like the suite upgrades and the breakfast and stuff.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's I made one of the same mistakes starting out. I was business traveling, staying at Marriott's or Hilton's mainly, building up status and sleeping on Hyatt. And right, I unfortunately I was paying annual fees, so I didn't get the luxury of not doing that. So the fact that, right, you can then tack those on with the Hilton Aspire, right, the different cards, and not paying those annual fees, like you're automatically double dipping, which is great. And you're just earning those. And yeah, it's really just getting, I know we've talked about this, but it's just getting started out and just getting those different loyalty programs, just signing up for the free account and starting to earn as you start to travel. I'm curious, you mentioned one mistake. What's the one biggest mistake that you see, military, just active duty or veterans make with credit cards?
They just stop at one card. It's hard because before the Amex Platinum card refreshed all their benefits, I actually pushed people towards the Chase Sapphire Reserve a lot more. But for some reason, the Amex Platinum card, I think just because people latched onto it and it's been kind of in the ecosystem and everybody has a referral link, right? So you show up to your first unit while you're on active duty and everyone's like, hey, do you have an Amex Platinum card yet? Do you want to use my referral link? So the Amex Platinum card is well known in the military community, but for a long time, a lot of the benefits were kind of difficult to use, or they just weren't as flexible. Whereas like the Chase Sapphire Reserve, I would always telling people, I was like, look, have you ever flown on an airplane or like stayed in a hotel? And it's like, yeah, I'm in the military. Like we do that every year, at least once. It's like, so go get a Chase Sapphire Reserve and get the $3 annual travel credit. And that's a free, over 10 years, that's $3,000 in your pocket. And so I think that's kind of the mistake I see people make, is that either they go right for the Amex Platinum, they ignore all the other cards, and then especially like there's a lot of things worse, but seeing if people pay for restaurants or groceries on an Amex Platinum card, and you're like, the Amex Gold card is right there.
Yeah.
It's no annual fee for military, and you're going to earn 4 times as many points. Please go for an Amex Gold card. So I think those are the biggest mistakes I see. And then, the other thing is like not understanding credit cards and, and being afraid of them. And like Dave Ramsey, I think, has a lot to answer for here. But if you're using them wisely, if you're using them smartly, and like I use Dave Ramsey to pay off my student loans. My wife and I paid off over $100,000 of student loan debt using Dave Ramsey's method. So don't get me wrong, like he does have his time and place, but when you're in the military, you have access to all these benefits. He used to say this thing about like, no one ever became a millionaire by using credit cards. And I'm just like, well, actually, I know a lot of people out there that have substantially increased their net worth because they were able to pay for most of their vacations, most of their travel on credit cards. And so then they were able to divert their cash into their Roth IRA, into their Roth TSP, and they were able to, save and invest for their retirement or for their financial independence because so much of their expenses were covered by their credit cards. And if you're not paying an annual fee on it and you're making the statement, paying the statement balance in full every month, you're not paying any interest on the cards. I just see it as a lost opportunity. And I see a lot of people in the military who I like to say are they're stepping over dollars to pick up pennies.
Yeah.
I think I used the example earlier, or maybe it was on another podcast of the Target 10% military discount for Veterans Day. Great. Thank you. I appreciate that. However, that means I have to spend money at Target to get that discount. Whereas if I just open up an Amex Platinum card, I go out to a Resi restaurant and I can spend $100 there and get the credit. There's nothing coming out of pocket. That's $100 that I can now divert into my Roth IRA and, compound it over 20, 30 years. That's going to grow to a substantial amount.
100%. I think another thing too is, all of those, and I grew up similar, like Dave Ramsey helping with its budgeting, debt payoff. Like it's very good. But once you have those in place, it's like, you want to also be rewarded, right? You want to live. So I think it's, you know what I mean? So like, not only are you, getting those free vacations and, you're getting those flights, hotels, you're also, if you're flying in first business class or you're staying at some of these luxury resorts, a lot of the times you're also sometimes rubbing shoulders with people. If you're in the business field, if you're an entrepreneur, whatever that may be, like you might meet someone that does something that leads down a different path. So there's just, you never know. And I think that's a good place. One more question. I know we're getting towards an hour here. So want to get one more tip. When you talk about, stopping at one card, I think a lot of times people are afraid because they go, hey, what do I do to track this? Right. How do I automate this? I don't want to have to do more mental gymnastics of tracking all these different, right? Quarterly credits, whatever that may be. Do you have any daily tips or tools, on your phone or softwares that you use just to keep track of it, to make sure everything's getting paid off on time, as well as you're getting the most value out of those credits and points that you recommend?
Yeah, I haven't found kind of like the perfect app yet. Card Pointers is pretty good. Max Rewards is pretty good. And then for keeping track of like what cards I actually have opened and, the bonuses and stuff and like when I'm eligible for another card, Travel Freely is a great app that my friend Zach has developed over at travelfreely.com. And I do use that one to kind of keep track of, especially like when did I open a card? When am I eligible for 5 out of 24 status, with Chase, those kinds of like things that can be kind of hard to track sometimes. At the end of the day, I just use a spreadsheet. The biggest thing for me is like, I tend to focus on the highest value rewards and the ones that I can kind of batch. And what do I mean by that is like for the Amex Platinum cards. So between my wife and I, we still have 7 Amex Platinum cards open. I think she's paying annual fees on hers. And then I still have all of mine annual fee waived. And what that means for us is we have 7 Amex Platinum cards to keep track of with all the benefits on it. But what we try to do is for like the recurring credits, like the digital entertainment credit, we just have the last 5 digits of the card and then what we're charging to it, right? So like this one's Wall Street Journal, this one's New York Times, this one's Hulu, this one's YouTube TV. And that just helps keep track of that. And the nice thing about that is once you've set it up, it's very hands off, right?
Yeah.
But if you want to like add a new program or something, we can just go to that spreadsheet and be like, okay, which card has what, or like, where's there free space to add the New York Times? Okay, here we go. The other thing we do is like for the FHR, the Fine Hotels and Resort Credit. So that's $300 every 6 months. And what we try to do there is if we book something, we just add it in there. We say, hey, we use this card to book, this trip. And that just kind of helps us keep track of that. And then for batching, United Travel Bank right now, or at least in 2025, we'll see if it still works in 2026, but you can purchase United Travel Bank credit with the Amex Platinum card. And as long as United is set as your airline fee credit, or your airline credit reimbursement program, American Express has been reimbursing for that purchase. So I go to, United Travel Bank and I just keep track. Okay, I purchased $200 on this Amex Platinum, $200 on this Amex Platinum, and I just kind of keep track of that. But I do that all in one day, in one sitting. So I'm not like, it's not something. So like early January, I'll take care of that, and then that's done. And I'm not thinking about that for the rest of the year. I just set a reminder on my phone. Another good one is like the Resi credit currently is $100 a quarter. I have a reminder set in my phone, and I'm actually living overseas, so there's no Resi restaurants near me. And that, but that could be the situation for a lot of military families. And so what I do is there's a site called, I think it's, useyourcredits.com. useyourcredits.com. And what you can do is you can search for a Resi restaurant that sells electronic gift cards. And so you can go and buy a $100 gift card to a restaurant. And then once you have, and just email it to yourself. And then once you have that gift card, you can load more value onto that gift card. And so what I'll do is every quarter is I take my 7 Amex Platinum cards. I find a Resi restaurant near my parents or my sisters, a friend who's back in the States. And I buy a gift card and then I load it up with seven Amex Platinum cards. And now I have a $700 gift card. And then I just email it to them and I say, hey, Here you go, $700 gift card.
That is awesome.
And, being able to share that, like, obviously, if I was living stateside, maybe I'd just be buying myself the gift card, but it allows me to batch the transaction. Then I'm not like thinking, okay, wait, did I already use this card for that Resi? And actually, the Amex app now, it does a pretty good job of keeping track of like how much of each credit you've used, but it's kind of buried in the app, and it's not front and center. So I try to, as much as I can, like I try to be an efficient person, and when you have this many cards, I try to do, just kind of hit the best benefits. And then like my favorite one to make fun of, there's a guy who I'm in a group with, and if he listens to this podcast, he'll know who I'm talking about. But he maxes out every single credit on every single card. And he's in the military, so he's got like 30 or 40 cards. And that includes I think it's the Amex Gold card, $7 a month Dunkin' Donuts credit. Man. I'm just like, dude, how much like of your life? He's like, well, it takes me about like 10 minutes to do it. So, like on an hourly basis, like I'm making, like $70 an hour or whatever. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
I'm good on that. My head hurts.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's my biggest advice is like, especially if you're an optimizer, like don't be scared that you have to optimize every credit. Just focus on the big wins and, the big welcome bonuses. And like, that's the thing when people are like, hey, which card should I be using for gas? Like what's the best cashback credit card on gas? I'm like, dude, if you're in the military and you haven't opened up 30 cards yet, you're missing out. You're missing out on cards that are paying a 25, 30, 40% effective cash back by earning a welcome bonus. Yeah. So if you're not working on a welcome bonus right now, you're probably doing it wrong. And again, you're stepping over the dollars to pick up pennies when like the credit card companies are just literally handing you not just dollars, but like thousands of dollars. Yeah. So I would focus on that.
Man, this has been next level. The Resi credit, that's because you're overseas, so I wasn't familiar with being able to do that. So that's awesome. Well, Spencer, this has been a awesome jam-packed value episode. And people, who are active duty, who are veterans, who aren't, just how you broke down specifically like how you think about it and just the credits and different strategies. I'm pumped for my audience to listen to this. Where can people find you online and anything else you want to share?
The hub of everything is militarymoneymanual.com. If you're interested in credit cards, I've got a free Ultimate Military Credit Cards course on there. Just drop your email address in, and then it's like 5 days, and I'll just send you a couple lessons, and it just like walks you through from like a complete beginner to making your first points and miles purchase, like both first flights or your first hotel. And in 5 days, we can get you up to speed and get you off to the running and opening up your first card, confirming that you're going to get your annual fees waived. So that's Ultimate Military Credit Cards course. And that's at militarymoneymanual.com. You can Google Military Money Manual. It'll come up everywhere. I've also got a book. It's on Amazon. It's on my website. It's basically the book that I wish I had when I first joined the military. And it's super short, super simple. Even a Marine can understand it. Sorry, Marines. And and happy 250th birthday to the Marine Corps as well. I better throw that out. It's the letter to myself that it's the book I wish I had when I joined the military. And, it just takes you through, again, like knowing almost nothing. Like, everybody in the military is getting a paycheck somehow. What are you going to do with that money? And I'll take you from not knowing anything to at least knowing a little bit of something, and then kind of set you on the path to financial freedom and financial independence. And then we've got the Military Money Manual podcast as well. So that's Apple, Spotify, almost 500 5-star reviews. So we're like this close. I'm really hoping we can get a couple more 5-star reviews on that. Yeah, socials, Military Money Manual. I think we're mostly on Instagram. I try to stay off the socials, but I just hired a new social media manager, so
Nice.
hopefully she's taking care of all those things. It's been a great 13 years now of building the company, and educating is well over 1 million. We've had over 5 million website visitors, and 20,000 people have graduated from the Ultimate
That's awesome.
Military Credit Cards course. So
That's
super excited about that. Yeah. And I just want to throw it out there too. The book is $3 on Amazon Kindle. So please don't let cost be a barrier to entry to reading the book. I'll just throw this out too, because I just want people to get this information. It's at a lot of the libraries on base, and it's in the Libby app, Libby, which is the DoD MWR free library app, and you can get the ebook or the audiobook in there for free. There's a little bit of a wait, so if you're tired of waiting, just go buy it on Amazon Kindle for $3, or buy the hardcover, because I really love the hardcover. It's a beautiful book. But yeah, reach out, militarymoneymanual.com, or DM me on Instagram. That's the fastest way to get a hold of me.
Awesome. And we'll make sure to share those links in the show notes. Again, Spencer, this has been awesome. I really appreciate it, and I can tell the passion that you bring, and you kind of took it to the next level as we got it started talking more and more. So pumped to share this episode. Listeners, if this is your first time tuning in, make sure you hit that follow or subscribe button. That way you don't miss out on any upcoming episodes. We do one a week where we bring on experts like Spencer every week. Make sure you also give him a 5-star review. I think he deserves one. He just dropped so much knowledge of 13 years that he had to accumulate, and I learned a ton just in this hour-long conversation. So make sure you share it with a family or friend as well who is either in the military, active, or a veteran, or just wants to learn more about credit cards. So really appreciate everyone tuning in. We will see you next week.
Thanks, Ross.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of the Military Money Manual podcast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. This helps others find the show, and we really appreciate it. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
The views and opinions presented here are those of the speakers and do not necessarily represent the views of the DoD or its components. Reference to any commercial products or services does not constitute DoD endorsement of those products or services.